Welcome to the Deep Dives, where we take your sources, peel back the layers, and unearth those crucial nuggets of knowledge. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something a little different, but really thought-provoking. We're looking at excerpts from A History of the Future, A World Made by Hand novel by James Howard Kunstler. It's a fictional journey, right?
Yeah.
Into a world after a massive collapse. And our mission today is to pull out the most important insights from these pages, trying to understand how communities, how individuals might, navigate such a huge shift. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and what's so interesting, I think, is how the book isn't just about what falls apart, the banks, the power grid, even the federal government disappearing. It really paints a picture of how people adapt when everything just changes, sometimes in months, often because of, epidemics or the economy just dissolving. It gives us this kind of rich tapestry, I guess, for looking at human resilience and fragility, too. Makes you think about what holds our society together.
Absolutely. Imagine just waking up one day and the systems you rely on every single day, they're just not there anymore. So this deep dive really shows us how this small town, Union Grove, starts to build a new kind of normal.
Yeah.
This is where it gets really interesting for me, how fundamental that shift is, even down to, the local restaurant.
It's a profound relocalization, isn't it? The whole core of daily life just pivots, like that old pizza place you mentioned, a symbol of the old convenience culture. It doesn't just get reused, it's totally reimagined as the new Union Tavern,
Right.
which really highlights this basic human need to redefine public spaces, make them community hubs again, not just convenient, but places for sharing food, for connection. And the description, it's got the cherrywood wainscoting, comfy seats, that big 12-foot pressed tin ceiling.
Sounds nice, actually.
It does. But the menu, that's key. It features things like our own tater tots and split pea soup with lard cracklings. It just screams local, handmade, a return to basics.
That's such a crucial point. Because as those big impersonal systems collapse, you see things like, governance, trade, they have to reinvent themselves, and often in, surprising ways. It also means people aren't just consumers anymore. They have to be something, contribute a skill, like Robert Earl becoming the town carpenter.
Exactly. Or Walter McWhinney, suddenly he's the saddle and boot maker.
Right. And Teddy doing his rounds with a horse-drawn wagon for Einhorn's store. It's like this hyper-local trade network springs up.
Yeah, it connects producers and consumers directly. What does this tell us about rebuilding, you think?
Well, it shows that immediate need for tangible skills, right? And supply chains you can actually see, not these abstract global things.
And connecting that to the bigger picture, you see the improvisation in governance, too. Robert Earl steps up as mayor. Stephen Bullock becomes the magistrate.
And Bullock's approach to law, it's very pragmatic.
Totally. He basically admits it's made up as we go along now. But his focus is clear. Stop things from descending into savagery. Keep some kind of order. Even appointing an untrained prosecutor just to have the role filled. This kind of improvisation, using bits of the old ways sometimes, it seems vital for stability.
So while the civil leaders are kind of figuring it out, the book also highlights this unexpected practical role for institutions like the New Faith Brotherhood Covenant Church.
That was really interesting.
Yeah. They buy the old high school, turn it into a compound with workshops, and incredibly, they fix the town's water system.
Which is huge, basic infrastructure.
Exactly. And you have figures like Brother Job, who was a law student at Duke, apparently.
Right. Bridging the old world, the formal training, with the new need for just getting things done.
It really makes you wonder, in a crisis, which institutions actually prove essential? Is it the ones we expect?
It definitely suggests that when central authority disappears, community groups, especially ones with strong internal bonds, they step into that vacuum. They provide not just, spiritual support, but really tangible services, fixing the water. And community life itself, it adapts. It finds ways to thrive, like that Christmas Eve service in Potluck.
Oh, tell us about that.
Well, it's described as this vital social convocation. Hundreds of people, farmers, tradespeople, folks from the New Faith compound, they all gather. They literally warm the church with their body heat, share food roasts, hams, cornbread, eggnog.
Wow.
It just underlines how important those shared rituals, that connection, become, especially in hard times, finding resilience together even when the world outside is broken.
That sense of community, it's clearly a lifeline. But the novel also goes deep on how individuals adapt or don't adapt. Andrew Pendergast's story really struck me.
Andrew.
When everything collapses, his true romance with the world began. His old job, freelance editor, gone. But so are the bills, mortgage, car payments, electric bills for companies that don't even exist anymore.
Right. The burdens disappear along with the conveniences.
And he finds this unexpected joy in just doing things, like fixing up an old clock piece by piece. It's a powerful message about finding purpose when everything's stripped away, isn't it?
Absolutely. Andrew's story shows something profound, I think. Without all the societal pressure, the constant consumer demand, people can find this weird kind of liberation. They redefine purpose through, like you said, practical work and real human connection. He even takes on Jack Heron as sort of project.
Teaching him basic stuff.
Yeah, like how to clean with vinegar, polish silver, make cornbread properly. Skills that Jack just never learned in the old world.
Huh.
And what's also fascinating is how Andrew re-examines his own identity without the old cultural scripts, as the book calls them.
What do you mean by cultural scripts?
Well, basically, the ideas and expectations about identity that society kind of imposes on you. Andrew reflects on his sexual orientation, wondering if being gay was less core to him and more. A label from a specific time and place that's now gone.
Interesting.
He realizes he hasn't even heard the word in ages and thinks, what a relief that was. It suggests that these huge societal shifts can trigger really deep personal reevaluations, too. Maybe letting people shed identities that didn't quite fit.
That's a really profound point. That identity itself isn't fixed when the framework holding it up changes. And then you have Brittany Bleeveld. Her transformation is also pretty incredible.
Right. From teenager glued to reality antics on TV.
Yeah, to this industrious woman making candles from beeswax and tallow. Practical skills again.
Exactly. And she finds a new kind of family, a domestic partnership with Robert Earl, the mayor, and his daughter Sarah, after her own husband was killed.
What does her journey tell us, maybe particularly about how younger people adapt?
Well, it shows how everyone, regardless of their background, is forced to become self-sufficient and find new ways to belong, new forms of family, new purpose. Brittany's story is also a reminder that, convenience is gone and loss, often violent loss, is just part of life now.
Yeah.
But she adapts. She finds usefulness, and importantly, she finds new connections, new stability.
Okay, so that's Union Grove. But this deep dive also takes us beyond the town.
Yeah.
Showing a much wider America that's been drastically changed. Daniel Earl's journey, Robert's son, takes 2 years. It gives us this lens on the sheer scale of the collapse.
It does, and it raises that big question. When the familiar order just disintegrates, what kind of societies emerge? How different are they?
His trip sounds harrowing from the start, leaving Brooklyn, avoiding the interstates.
Yeah, encountering people who are just as baffled as they were frightened, lost. He describes these abandoned suburbs, farmland gone fallow, sees scarecrow people scuttling around the ruins of modern life. It's a grim picture of a fragmented country.
Pretty stark.
But it also hints at, pockets where things are reorganizing.
Right, like that rebirth on the rivers and lakes. In Amsterdam, New York, those huge old carpet mills are empty shells.
Yeah, symbols of a dead industry.
But life is clustering down by the riverfront. New merchant houses, docks, boat building for the canal trade. The Erie Canal becomes vital again.
Exactly. A return to older ways of transport and commerce out of necessity.
Daniel and his friend Evan, they try to get passage west on the Mohawk River. But it's not easy.
No, it reveals the harsh side of this new frontier. Like at Lockport, they encounter this brutal system of indentured slavery.
Seriously?
Yeah. And Daniel's reaction, his violent resistance, it makes him an outlaw, which highlights the kind of brutal choices people face for freedom when there's no real law.
So rebuilding isn't always some wholesome community effort. It can be really rough.
Definitely. It's marked by these new power dynamics, sometimes real moral compromises.
And their journey continues on this boat, the Carrie McKinney. Survival requires crazy resourcefulness, like
frying bacon and potatoes in a scrubbed steel toilet pan, because that's all they had.
wow, okay. But despite all that hardship, they feel this sense of freedom sailing the Great Lakes.
Yeah, a real contrast to the dangers and the sort of oppression they found on land. It's like the natural world offers a different path, maybe some psychological space, when the built world collapses.
So Daniel's journey also introduces us to these new powers that are starting to consolidate control.
Yes, like the Foxfire Republic down in Franklin, Tennessee.
Right. A new government, relocated, actively rebuilding. And they're literally tearing down 20th century buildings they see as awkward and ugly.
Yeah, and replacing them with new construction in a traditional style, red bricks, wood trim. It's not just practical rebuilding, it feels ideological.
Like erasing the recent past.
Exactly, building a new visual identity, rejecting the collapsed era's look and maybe its values too.
But even with this new order, resources are incredibly tight. Their big achievement is this one oil well
The eighth wonder of the world. Yeah.
that produces only 37 barrels a day, and they can only refine about 20.
And it takes a week-long trip by horse-drawn wagon train to transport that fuel.
Providing just a few hours of electricity in the evenings, only in the central district. It's a massive reality check on energy scarcity, isn't it?
Totally. How precious it becomes, and the immense effort just to get a tiny fraction of what we used to have.
And at the heart of this Foxfire Republic is its leader, Loving Morrow.
The charismatic leading light. She gives these grand speeches, inspires intense devotion, people falling to their knees, speaking in tongues.
So you see the power of belief, of charisma, in a world desperate for direction.
For sure. But there's that darker side, too. The rumors.
Right. Executing prisoners, soldiers found hanging from trees, crucifixions, decapitations, even unconfirmed cannibalism.
Chilling stuff.
Mm.
And Foxfire is militarily aggressive, trying to expand controlled trade routes like the Ohio River.
So it portrays the rise of these new, often pretty brutal centralized powers focused on control and expansion above all else.
Yeah, a very different kind of order emerging.
And Daniel himself gets tangled up in this wider political web. He ends up on Channel Island being programmed for a mission by the service.
Which seems to be some remnant of the CIA. He has these weird encounters with a woman named Valerie Estridge, part of that operation.
And the book gives glimpses of other players, too,
Yeah.
like Harvey Albright, the new federal president based in St. Paul.
Right, because St. Paul supposedly had a plan for a future without oil, relying on hydroelectric power, so they moved the capital there. Remnants of the old system trying to adapt and hold on.
So while America is fracturing internally, there are external forces at play, too.
Oh, yeah. We hear about Asian freebooters, specifically Indonesians, raiding the Pacific coast.
Raiding, like pirates.
Essentially, even carting off tons of gold from the Federal Reserve Bank in San Francisco.
Wow.
It paints this picture of a total breakdown of international order, a power vacuum that others are rushing to exploit, reshaping global power completely.
Okay, so what emerges from this whole deep dive, then, is this really profound look at the human spirit under just immense pressure. We've seen incredible ingenuity back in Union Grove, but also the tragic toll of loss, both personally and on this wider scale. So what does this all mean for us, for you listening, when we think about these extreme scenarios?
Well, I think it means really understanding the human cost. The novel doesn't shy away from the trauma. Look at Mandy Stokes.
Her mental decline after losing her husband and baby.
Yeah, she just strays deeper and deeper into a distant hinterland of the mind, becomes violently resistant. And her husband, Rick, he's heartbroken over her state, over the baby's death. It shows that cascading grief.
And the epidemics are just relentless in the background. Mexican flu, encephalitis, cholera.
A constant threat, decimating populations, forcing huge changes in how people care for each other, what family even means. It really forces you to confront how fragile life is and the psychological weight of all that loss.
Yet somehow, amidst all that suffering, there's this persistent, almost defiant search for purpose, for connection.
Definitely. Like Andrew Pendergast hosting that Christmas dinner party for his friends. It's this little microcosm of the New Society musicians, a librarian, farmers, a dentist.
Yeah, and the Christmas carol practice at the church, warmed by 34 bodies and ample cider. Just finding simple joy.
Or the New Year's Eve levee. These simple acts of just gathering, of affirming bonds, they become vital lifelines, don't they?
They absolutely do. It underlines that even when the big structures fall apart, that fundamental human need for community, for celebration, for shared meaning, it just persists.
And Robert Earl's story captures that resilience, that redefining of happiness. He lost his first family to disease.
Terrible.
But finds this renewed sense of love, family with Brittany and Sarah. And his worry for his son Daniel when he returns, it's so palpable. Familial bonds are still paramount. The story really emphasizes the importance of simple things. Sharing a meal, reading Black Beauty to kids, music, the natural world. Those become the anchors when everything else is gone. It shows you where real value might lie.
The novel also really keeps showing that tension, doesn't it? between the old ways people remember and the new harsh realities.
Yeah, like Magistrate Bullock trying to maintain law when it's basically improvised. That desire for order clashing with this new frontier where the old rules don't apply.
And Andrew Pendergast, questioning his own identity without those cultural scripts. It shows how even our internal worlds get reshaped.
It really leaves you wondering about the true foundations of society, doesn't it? When everything we take for granted just disappears, the narrative of a history of the future really does make you think hard about the structures underpinning our world right now and what happens if they dissolve. Which raises, I think, an important question for you, the listener. If our current normal arrangements suddenly dissolved, what fundamental human skills or capacities do you think would be most crucial for survival? And what parts of our culture, the things we cherish, do you genuinely believe would endure?
That's a heavy question to sit with. This deep dive has definitely shown us a future that's both incredibly alienating and yet profoundly human. It leaves us with this compelling picture of adaptation, that desperate search for order, and the enduring spirit of community, even when it has to be, made by hand.
Thank you for joining us on the deep dive.